This class, I want to talk to you about black holes. So, what exactly is a black hole? Well, most people say that a black hole is a large star that collapses in on itself into a singularity in a significantly small speck called a singularity, which forms a thing called an event horizon around the barrier of this black hole. So, what exactly is that event horizon? If you've listened to some other classes, you'll know that that event horizon is basically the difference between the ether field and the visible physical reality. That is the Planck constant, the Planck length. Anything below that is falls into the ether reality. Anything outside of that stays in the visible physical reality. So it's really not a black hole as much as it is an invisible hole as far as being in a different dimension. So what happens when something goes from big to small and falls into the ether reality? You're right. Energy is released. The energy is, some people refer to it as Hawking radiation. But as I've discussed before, I believe that it's more appropriate to give it to credit to Tesla and his dynamic theory of gravity.
When we come to the black hole, it gets a little bit more complicated. So in order for me to help you understand certain things, I need to explain phenomena. What I try to do in the past lessons is try to tell you about or try to get rid of some noise. For instance, in the discussion of quantum entanglement, instead of doing it in the visible physical reality where there's, as Tesla would say, a lot of twirling and swirling going on, I took you out to the void to show you that the phenomena is sound, that area, because it's balanced, this universe is balanced. When you have two objects that you add to it, they're going to stay in balance as well. So the theory is solid, but whether it's can do it in the visible reality and be able to actually experiment and show that is somewhat suspect. But the theory is solid. Also, when we talked about the two objects in close proximity to one another, the moon and the Earth, I didn't include spin. I didn't include gravity of the planets and the sun because I want to get rid of the noise to get across a certain phenomena. But here, discussing the black hole, I'm going to have to go into some little bit more detail because there's so much gravity that's happening in regards to the ether within the black hole, and it's being torqued and twisted, as Einstein would say, be warped. That's why I didn't beat up Einstein too much, because it looks like it's being warped. Although I still believe in Newton's understanding of the difference in the density and the stretching and the condensing of the ether. And in this case, even though it's being torqued and the gravity is pulling it in, it's still staying symmetrical. So with that understood, what is the difference between the ether in the void and the ether in the black hole? Well, there's one major distinction. As you remember my discussion on quanta, you have matter that falls into the ether dimension. It releases energy. Why does it do that? Just to keep the balance. Matter and energy are in direct proportion to one another. So if matter falls into the ether, energy is released in direct proportion to that to keep the balance. And then when it goes back into the ether, then the matter goes back out into the visible reality in order to keep that balance. But in the black hole, that matter is not going back out into the reality, the visible reality. It is staying inside that black hole. So what's happening? Well, the energy is being released, goes back into the ether, but then it's going to be released some more, and it continues in proportion to what the matter that's in there. And as more matter is being added to it, more energy is being released in direct proportion. So the balance here is not matter going back and the proportion between matter and energy as in the quanta discussion. Here is the energy that's continually cycling in order to keep that balance. So that's a little more complicated. I had to go back and try to help you understand that. but it's a balanced universe. It all goes back to Newton's understanding of cause and effect, that for every action there's often an equal reaction, and also the understanding of the connectivity associated with the ether. So if you understand that, you can understand these things such as the black hole. So hope you enjoyed that. Thank you. So I thought it would be appropriate for me to try to explain one more part of this noise that we've been talking about that makes all this somewhat complex, and this is probably perhaps one of the most complex, and that's why I decided I needed to do this in regards to the black hole, because the black hole magnifies everything. So in our discussion on gravity and spatial uniformity, we had some understanding what's here to my right in regards to the Earth passing through the ether causes the density of the particles. The ether isn't really moving, but the Earth is moving through it, causing it to go from large to small to large, acting like a fusion engine. So it is releasing energy. So with the black hole isn't the Earth, it is actually particle that's causing an dense ether field to pass through the ether, if that makes any kind of sense at all. I hope you grasp that. But so the ether reality is actually passing through the ether reality, but the ether isn't really moving. It's remember, it's all a chain reaction, so everything that's happening in the black hole, even as the black hole is moving through, it's all cause and effect. It's all spiraling, twirling and swirling, like Tesla said. It's very complicated, but you can have all this intense gravity, intense torquing, and it's all moving, and it acts as ether passing through the ether, which makes it super complicated.
As in past lessons, I have restated certain aspects of the phenomena that we're discussing in order to have clarification. So here again, I'll use a different graphic and explain it this way. The collapsed star forms a black hole, which is due to the intense gravity and torque resulting in the entire area being in the ether dimension. This entire warped area moves through the ether, at times encountering parts of the visible universe and pulling it into the black hole. However, just like the illustration of the Earth passing through the ether, the black hole does not tear or break the ether, but it does warp it. After the black hole passes the ether, it returns to its natural state. The matter that enters the black hole causes the release of energy in direct proportion to the amount of matter in the ether. Energy will continue to be released until the matter returns to the visible reality.
And now you know more of the story. Stay tuned. This is John McCamick with Truth University. Good day.